Up. Laura, hey, how's it going? Yeah, so Andrew posted this in our Discord, and he's actually doing not too bad of a piece on it right now, but he has some questions, in particular how to do the nose, and so I just figured that I would go and do a sketch of this and walk through, even though I know that he can't, he can only watch on the weekends. And I'm not streaming right now that much on the weekends, so there's that, but still. One of the things is I try to zoom in as much as I could with the camera, so it's a little bit of a challenge for me right now. I really liked your stream, and Val really said he enjoyed your stream as well, because he says it's nice when both of us stream at the same time. There's no dead air, for example. And also, we almost have twice the audience when we do that, which is pretty cool, I think. So. That's probably the drops there. This there. This drops. Maybe. Actually, let me bring the camera out just a little bit. This is a little tricky because I'm trying to fit it into a small camera shot, which it's not too smart. I probably need it a little bit larger than it is. Let me fix this camera. Let's just go over some. See that? That should fit, maybe. And then let me adjust. Pretty solid. That's fine. That works. Yeah, cool. Going to Humongous Art Store together, so I'll be seriously tempted. Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad you could stop in. You do your thing. But yeah, definitely, I had a really good time doing all that stuff. It's the top. The side is now out here. Other one is here. And then down here. Somewhere around there. Okay. Top. That's the top. Okay, cool. I know. Let's try that again. Give myself a little bit more space to work. It was a nice weekend. It was good. It was very relaxing. My mom had her birthday on Saturday, and that was really nice. And it was a beautiful day. How was your weekend? Hey, me, what's up? Hey, thank you. Yeah. I was also productive, cleaned up part of the yard, still lots more to go. Good. Well, I mean, I think, right, starting is the hardest part, so at least you started doing that. That's the way I look at it. Cool. Really cool. Good stuff. Good to hear. Good to hear. Hey, thank you, Hammy. Really appreciate that. Yeah, so this is the stream mainly. I mean, it's for everybody, but I think stop something here. This actually goes down. It's gonna drop. Might drop a little bit, maybe. Comes out. If that's there. This is there. Yeah, it's a beautiful profile pose. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. I love Tagging's work right now. His mentality. I know I say that a lot, but he's a young kid and he's understanding concepts and such that it took me a long time to understand when I was being trained. But obviously it's a little bit different education. But he's very motivated with that. It's pretty sweet, actually, to see somebody that's so young doing that type of stuff. So I decided to finally try to do a male figure sketch. I have been working on it over the weekend, but it is much more of a challenge trying to capture the figure more than a female. How so? I'm curious about that. Very curious. Constantly going over these proportions. All right, squint for the nose. We squint. Squint. First off, I have a lot to fix with the nose still. We always squint. These big basic shapes down. All right, big basic shapes. Do it right, it should. Oops. Kind of come together just a little bit. Light shape here, light shape there. That's there. This width, this width. That's there. Keeping it light so we can erase. Squinting down so we unify all the shapes. Squint. We always squint. I'm not thinking trying to detail. I'm thinking get all these shapes correct, right? I need to get these shapes. This needs to come up more like that. There. Knife edge with the gummy eraser. Cut. Clean up. Keep it simple. There you go. Angles. Squint down. Squint, just break them down. Individual angles, that's what we're doing. I mean, I'm saying this just as much for you. Andrew, like I said, Andrew has, I like his project, I like his mindset, I like what he's working on with this, and this stuff applies to everybody, including you, Hammy Sam. A female figure has subtle curves and soft skin. Usually the male in the reference has a more toned body. Males has a more toned body. Trying to get the impression that he has muscles is a challenge without making it look horrible. He also has large veins, which I'm trying to ignore. Yeah, and that's good. That's good that you're ignoring it. I hear you. I hear you. I normally find things are more pronounced, easier to do, because they're more obvious to see. In my opinion, curved and subtle forms and shapes are more difficult, right? Because we don't, in this case, break it down into a curve. We break it down to angles. And so curves are very subtle angles, so you have to be working on more subtle, you have to see the subtlety more and almost simplify it more. And I think that's a little bit more difficult. It can be trickier to do, if that makes sense. Keeping these lines relatively soft but precise. Now, here's the thing, Hammy, and Lauda too. You lean from this what you can. Like, I'll try to articulate this stuff, and believe it or not, it applies to your work. And Lauda, you could apply to yours too. With this, you know, certain truths in this, even though you're not trying to go maybe for the style I'm paint or drawing in, but you can still. I know this is kind of going off the page. Sorry. I'm putting this in for my own use. I wanted to have a zoomed in shot of this, and maybe I'll zoom it out in a second just to show you guys what I just did, but now it's not too important. So this length, right? This length, this angle from this point to here. And once we get those accurate, those correct, we can start breaking them down a little bit more. sometimes what helps is to see this shape right here and try to squint down and see that as basic angles. It kind of prevents you from drawing a misconception, saying, oh, I think it looks this way, it's rounded, so I'm going to round it off, and then it's obviously wrong. You're like breaking it down more in a constructive manner, intelligent manner, which frankly I'm not doing. Thumbs up. That's wrong. That's wrong. This is wrong. There's some sketches come out looking like yours at some point, but apparently my mind and hand have this disconnect, and they decided to make it different. Well, you know, you just need practice. That's all you need. You just need practice. This is way short. You see that? Way short. Embarrassingly so. And that's why we do this. So, from here to here. It's there. Can't believe I missed that. That is so far off. Fine. Good. 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 So how do we do this? Go back through, get this angle, which is kind of coming in like that. I'm not going to erase everything and get all pissed off. No, I don't want to do that at all. At all. Not at all. Just keep on doing light lines, very light lines. There we go. I think I'm going to, I actually got a commission to design a logo for a bakery. I've worked on that a bit. Sweet! You gonna post it? Should post it. So I was back and forth with her about it. It's come from the church launch Simple Bakery into the outreach ministry. Somehow they may want their church logo as part of it, so how it is on the back burner waiting for her and the church to decide what they actually want. Gotcha. Makes sense. Cool. Really cool. Good job. Good job. Should be some motivation. Elohim Mochel. How's it going, man? Huh? Doing all right? Elohim. Woo. Good. Good stuff. This is so weird in the reference photo. It's almost like she had glasses and they photoshopped it off or something. Because this doesn't make any sense, the shadowing up there. It's really strange. Huh. Very strange indeed. Yes, yes, yes. All right, Laura, I'll see ya. Have fun shopping. Is the camera still working? Yes, good. This is still working. It took me a while this morning. I was actually, for about an hour, I was troubleshooting because it didn't work the last time. And I had to uninstall it, delete the settings while I uninstalled it, and then reinstall it, restart the computer. But it took me a while to figure that out, and it somehow worked. I don't know what caused it to bug out the last time, but hopefully that doesn't happen again. So we move in here. Probably still in the wrong position. Yeah. Alright, bitches. Give me a second. Oh my gosh. Give me a sec. Oh gosh. Okay. Oh, we're back. We're back. So these shapes can be confusing because everything's at an angle, right? So we need to do two things. We need to be like very, something mathematical, but just really practice your angles on this because this is not going to be moving. So, like, what angle is that? What angle is this? What angle is this? The big angles, right? That's the big thing. That's the big thing, the big angles. But then all these subtle shapes and crazy angles, to squint to unify them and just draw these big basic shapes. And don't just look at shadow shapes, but look at the light shape here too, this light shape. It's not all about shadow shapes, because we mistake that. Shadow shapes you draw, right? Don't necessarily in this type of drawing, you don't draw necessarily lights unless, say we shadow this and then you're cutting in with this eraser, you're drawing with the eraser, you're hatching the lights up. But you want to see light and dark shapes all at once, and that'll help you get it quicker. Don't just think shadow shapes like an idiot. Here's another thing. Everything here is very light. It's starting to look okay, kind of, but there's a lot of stuff still that's going to have to change. It's just the truth. And so, keeping it light, be able to shift it so it's correct eventually. And like in here, it's like too many lines going up. It's getting a little bit too dirty, confusing. We go in and we clean it up, and this eraser is quite nice because we can shape it how we want, and we can get more precise with it. That's one of the great things about this eraser right here. It's like you can draw with it, you can shape it. Just like you shape a pencil. When you shape a pencil, you can it's not all about sharpening the pencil, it's about how you draw with the pencil. Slowly rotating it, always keeping on the sharp side. All right? That's how it is. It's easy. Now, I'm not so sure about the mouth, but I try to imagine a line going through here and then getting this distance right here and seeing this angle and this angle at the same time. And see, I have kind of a double line here, so I'm going to have to commit. And I think it might be like kind of in between the two lines here, maybe. I'm squinting down, but I'm trying to see this line here, that angle in relation to here. And at some point I'm going to just step back and just see the whole shape. Taggy, what's up, buddy? I love your painting you're doing. Did you see what I wrote? I love the painting. I love the form up in the top. Right? Love it. You're doing really good. You have the bright mentality, and this is going to have a huge return for you. Huge return. Shadow shapes. Still, the nose needs to be corrected. And in looking at this, I'm looking at this light shape and trying to see this as a shape too. Not looking at the nostril, all these little curves and crap that's going on there. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. Good. Good man. Good man. Think of it like the construction of a drawing. You do the whole thing at once. Same thing with that stuff, coloring it in. Don't do the coloring books crap. And I know you're thinking about it as you're putting it. You're probably correcting as you're going, but you basically, 3 values, right? You don't need to go lightest light. Don't need to necessarily do a darkest dark. Just do a shadow, a mid-tone, and a lighter value. And block those in and then develop them all at once like that. And you can keep it thin. And you can still work on the form while you do this. You can still do that. You just don't work as much. You're not mixing as much individual. But I tell you, the way that you did paint it is absolutely beautiful. And that modeling, especially around this area right here, you see? It's very nice. Beautiful, man. Beautiful work. I'm impressed. That's good. You keep that up. That's what I like to see. That stuff, that gives me energy to do this type of stuff. Is seeing that type of, it gets me into it. I've been doing this for a long time. And enthusiasm wanes. All right? And one day, Tegian, you'll feel it too. And then you have to get creative. I'm being stupid. I'm going to come back to that. Let's go all around here. So this essentially, Tegian, is Andrew was doing a painting, and it looks pretty good, man. I mean, it's like, he has the block, and he has the right mindset. Essentially, in his, there wasn't any defined shapes, shadow shapes here, and he had a question in particular about the nose. Start with the midtones in light, and then add lighter values, suggest form. I like how you go from a darker to a light. I like that. I wouldn't start with the midtones. I would start with something a little bit more grounded. Why? Because I think you'll be more accurate if you start with a shadow, like a shadow shape. Oh, it is? Well, he's an amateur. Don't listen to him. Have you watched my videos? Gadetti. Sargent. Disregard what I said in that case, but my reasoning is this, okay? Okay, so you're putting the shadows. That's it, because you want to have something to go off of. If you're just starting with, I don't think you are, right? If you're just starting with the midtones will change depending on you adding a light or a dark. It's harder to tell a midtone than it is a dark or a light. So that's all. The drill sergeant. He's such an amateur. Such an amateur, that guy. Totally overrated. He's one of my favorite artists. And everybody at the Florence Academy, in fact, looked up to him. Except I looked down upon him, so there's a difference, but still. I do respect him. I'm doing subtle shifts. Lights are lower in value because I build up on top. Good. which that's good. That's what you're supposed to do. Stuff. Tagging, you know I'm pretty hard on you, right? Because you want that, right? You want that. And like most of the time I think you know what you're doing. I'm just kind of pressing to make sure, right? Because this type of stuff is all about being on the same track. It's not that I need to get a word in, okay? This is too big. This is stupid. All right, let's just start using our head here for a second. This actually comes in quite some bit. Not that much. Damn it, not that much. That's not a good line. I know you do. That's why I do it. Lee Brushwood. Sergeant Bouguereau, yeah. You can't even blend. It lets the eye blend for you, right? You step back and then it kind of just all works and not getting in the way anyway. They're both just something else. I like both their work. And Bouguereau actually, he had a lot of it. I'm going to forget where this is. That's what I did. I had my hat right here because I have my the easel where my iPad was right here at one point. I put my hat on it and didn't find it for like 2 or 3 days, and my head was cold. So I'm not going to find that. I'll forget about this within 5 seconds. Anyway, what was I saying? Bouguereau actually could paint very impressionistic as well. If you look at his landscapes in the back, they're very beautifully done. Very beautifully done. Like, look in the background of his paintings and see how he painted them. And a lot of it's alla prima, to the face. He's really damn good. But he just had a different finish to it, right? He had a different finish. Both those artists are just absolutely freaking nuts. Well, this comes up. Wait, if that's there. I'm trying to see this shape. I think that's close. I had to bring this up some. Let's see how that looks when I... This part comes out just a hair, I think. But yeah, tagging yours, you're like your works. I like here. I look at the direction and the people's mindsets. That's what I look at. It's all about direction, right? It's the direction people are going with it. So, and again, the reason why I do these basic drawings, because we're talking about the fundamentals, and this is going to seep out into my painting, into my work, when I decide to paint. The other reason why I'm doing this today is that I have the painting I'm going to be doing for my sister, and I want to get that done, but I just wasn't feeling it today. I just said, I don't feel like painting. I just don't, and that's okay. Sometimes that happens. Ideally, no, but See, I take note of the things that I'm doing wrong in this, and try not to do them next time. I really do. Sometimes I'm just so far off with stuff, it's just really frustrating for me. It's interesting enough, Bogora painted very direct because he studied in the École. He didn't do much glazing or tricks like that straight fucking paint. Like that straight fucking paint. The 19th century education was so good because students learned to paint in a direct way, prepare nothing, just paint what's in front of you as truly as possible. I like that. Yeah. And you can tell in his work, that's what I'm saying. Like it's solid. It stands out. It's solid. There's a deep understanding of what you're looking at. People might say, oh, but it looks glazed because of the finish. It doesn't matter because you can, even in alla prima, you can work it up. It's simply, you think of everything as planes and you break those planes down, and the more you break those planes down in a manner which also makes sense from stepping back, you know, the more solid and more refined your work's going to look. And that's what he did, right? So it's amazing stuff. It's absolutely amazing stuff. Love it. Okay, you know what I might do? I might go on and lightly block, just put the shadow shapes in. I mean, the shadow shapes are in, but I'm going to shadow them in. And I can always shift and move it if I need be. Looks so glazed because he colors and values are so harmonious. He focuses a lot on form and structure. Yes, form, structure, values. And if you look at his work too, they call it grays in scans, where it's like, it's not very high chroma, reds or blues or oranges or greens, but he has very subdued flesh tones, but they play off each other on a very subtle scale, and it's very well observed. It does not look stylized or made up. It doesn't seem like he's doing a trick because it's so well observed. It's beautiful work. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful work. He'd fill his sketchbooks up. He did a lot of sketches too. And he said that whenever he didn't have a theme to paint, he would just open his sketchbook because he did so many drawings from life, and they were very solid studies. And so he would actually take some of those figures from his sketchbook and do that pose into a painting, right? And I think, Taggy, correct me if I'm wrong here, okay? Because you're studying this stuff solidly right now. I think he also had such a knowledge of flesh tones that he didn't always need a model up for him to paint that model in and make it look real. Is that correct? I think it is. I think I remember reading that somewhere. Anyway, he's amazing. And but he loved painting. His heart was really into it. When color change happens in a mid-tone, for example, most peasants like me would make that color change lower in value. Change lower in value. Do you mean lower in like your light value, like you'd make it accidentally darker? Or are you meaning to say that you put too much color in because I forgot about form and structure? How did you realize that? You like, so Taggy, let me ask you this, because you've been talking a lot about form and structure. This is so weird what's happening in this, by the way. This is a little off. Just with the photograph, there's this weird, like the transition here is just so weird in this. That's why we, anyway, like what's gotten you on this kick with form? What happened? I want to know. Something happened, and this is good. This is not a criticism. I'm genuinely curious why you're on a kick with form right now. Right? Watch a video Stephen Baldwin made on Bouguereau. I guess I forgot. Okay. Hey, link that one, will you? Was this a recent one he did? Steven's so knowledgeable, he really is. He has a better vocabulary than I do, though. Half the time he speaks, I have to look stuff up. It's probably good for me. He likes saying the dichotomy between. Dichotomy between. It's a shadow shape. I was copying just values and color and forgot about form and structure. I would think about form, but in a bigger scale, like in the forehead, and not in the smaller forms. Yeah. And you kind of go off real life at your school, right? Like it seems like y'all have models, even though it's quick, but you're obviously your more in-depth studies are off of your iPhone and stuff. Is that correct? Now these shapes are not correct here. I'm putting them in, I'm going to shift them at this level. But I'm keeping everything nice and light. Right? That's what we do. Keep them nice and light. It's okay to put the shadow shapes in around the stage, but you do want to strive to have it more accurate, obviously, than I do right now, too, especially this. Y'all can't see this part. I'm just going to put that in. Just putting this in for my sake. I have it zoomed in so y'all don't see, like, this bottom part. You see this part now. This is the hatching, just diagonal. There we go. This is all wrong, but I'll fix this. Now we can work with shapes. Rim and Alex Hurtado got me thinking about form more. Good. Excellent. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now we can start hatching out with our eraser. This is what I was talking about earlier. You draw, right? You just draw. We're thinking about light shapes, the form. Still angles. Pretty much everything here is just drawn with pretty much straight lines for the most part, right? Stuff in here, you just want to get the impression, the light impression, right? So you can kind of be a little bit loose with it. Now, sometimes in here, for example, it's a little bit patchy. The reason being is because I did not really do solid technique. For the most part, I try to have a very fluid shadow, and this takes some time, it takes some practice, but if you can do that, you're able to cut and make more solid shadow shapes when you erase, right? So what do you do if it starts looking patchy and out of control? Just take your time, and you don't need to shade it in as quickly as I did. You just go over it right here, and just tighten it up just a little bit. And you just tighten this up some. And if you spend your time with it, you'll make it so it's not that patchy. You're going to lose the drawing some, but that's okay. Yes, I am. I'm always, here's the thing. This is why I do this stuff, okay? Like, this is a study, so I'm trying to see the proportions, I'm trying to see the shapes, but I'm trying to understand everything. Even though I'm not necessarily modeling form, it doesn't mean you don't think about it at this stage. It's the number one thing you want to do is understand what you're looking at. Well, it's a three-dimensional person, right? This is why real life is key. People are like, oh, I can get a photographic look. True, you can get it photographic, but you're going to understand it better if you have somebody up there. Because, Tegan, if you saw me in here, on every Thursday night we have a model right back there, and I'll be walking around looking at it. When I give critiques, I'll go up and say, look at this, understand what's happening here. Because at a distance, sometimes small things, you can't really see what's happening. You have to understand it. So at this stage, definitely, number one, always be thinking about the form. Always be trying to understand the form. Who was it? Somebody told me, Mark D'Alessio, maybe? One of my teachers, it might have been Yura, said most of the drawing is done back here. When you're thinking about what you're doing, you're looking, you're going back and forth, you're trying to break it down, you're trying to understand this, you're trying to see the angles, the widths, you're doing the drawing in your head. Up here, you're just placing what you've already drawn out. That's what you're doing, right? That's what's happening. Definitely, you always want to think about the form. Every line is a representation of the form, a plane turned to the side, right? This plane is now on its side. That's what we're drawing. That's form. I tell you to draw it soft or sharp, right? That has to do with the way the light's hitting it, the way that the actual angle of the plane is. And perhaps it has to do also with hair. That's form. You're thinking about the form. You have to see these. You have to connect everything. That's why I was saying stuff like relationships. Most of the stuff here that I'm thinking about is not drawn on this. Most of it, right? Let's clean this up a little bit. Most of it's not drawn. Excuse me. It's been dry recently here. I do these things because this is actually helping my painting. A lot. Ever since I've started streaming again and y'all have been talking to me about this stuff and I'm trying to do things that I think would help y'all, it's actually helped me a lot. A whole lot. So right. Always think about the form. That was most of the critiques. You lost the form. Claire, what's up? You lost the form. What the hell were you thinking? Start over, Romero. Start over, idiot. People think about angle breaks like some visual impression, but angle breaks are in fact a change in plane. Yes, it is. And so this trick that I keep on saying it's a trick, but you know how I keep on doing these things where it's like it kind of crosses that? That's an aesthetic thing, but when stepped back, it sometimes accentuates a certain point. It's like in a little optical illusion, and you can overdo it. But here and there, like especially like on a standing figure tag in, it works very well on the shoulder, 1, 2, when it's sharp and the light's hitting. That little cross right there, and it kind of, but you have to do it right. It can't be too, it can't dominate. But when you step back, it gives the illusion of the shoulder popping forward. And it's not there, but it is the plane. So you're thinking about that and you're creating, this is all an optical illusion. Everything is. Because if I was drawing, for example, on black paper here, this would not have the same effect. This right here, these values don't really exist in life. Like this is pure white and then this is a gray, but they contrast each other to form an impression, which is like an illusion. Right? That's what we do in paint. There's no such thing as light. There's the illusion of it, right? That's what we do. But that doesn't mean that's all it is. We're representing planes and form. But to represent them, you have to freaking think about it first. You can't just accidentally do it right every single time. Idiot. Right? So. See, now you got me going, man. Ever since last week, you got me going with this, which is good. I need that. This is incorrect. This needs to come up. Because I've been in my studio and I don't have that type of stimulation anymore. And big time impressionistic. One of the things that I learned is that, son of a bitch. One of the things that I learned was that, like at the academy, they kept on saying the impression. Technically, you don't need to really refine that much. If you're constantly squinting, you get the proper lights and darks in the shape that they need to be, and then in painting, the color that they need to be, ballpark color. You squint down, and it pops. I've seen, for example, and a testament to this is a painting that is less like worked up, like less smooth, but has a solid. It can have a solid light impression, better than a painting that is totally refined, but they lost the light impression. Well, the Florence Academy teacher wouldn't go up and say, hey, that painting that you refined is really good. They say, you lost the impression, idiot, which is what I said all the time. What do I mean by shapes? Like, we're talking about brush strokes. Like oftentimes you can see the brush strokes, they're not as refined, but they're in the correct shape, right? So like, for example, the arm is the correct shape, but the brush strokes and the transitions and such, like they're big basic brush strokes, but they're where they're supposed to be. And they might have a subtle edge to them, right? But it might be done in 3 or 4 different strokes, whereas another painter might go through and get the shape of the arm. That's what I mean by the shape, right? Correct, but it's like totally smoothed out, right? Well, the Florence Academy teacher would get on the person's case for that, because that's not what you're. Does that make sense? Getting the shapes correct means like getting the proportions correct, right? The anatomy correct, the big basic shapes correct. You got me going, man. You got me going. Which is good. This is good. When you think about form, you follow it by brush. I don't understand that. What do you mean? But when you think about form, you follow it by brushwork. What do you mean by that? I might know what you're talking about there. It's just worded weird. It might not be you. It might be me just being like going along the form with brush. Okay, so that's a great question. I think at first it's easier. For example, if you're going to be doing an arm. All right, so we got some shadow. Okay, let's see if we got this. Let me do this for a second. I'll put that down. Should be fine. Okay. So we have here, right here. You can go across like this too, like brush stroke. At first you want to do that. What I like to do now at certain points is go this way in some points and that way in other points. Mix it up, because John Singer Sargent was very good at this. If you look at some of his portraits, for example, you'll see in the cheek area, like he'll be going with the form here, but sometimes he'll have like the light. He'll have the shadow shape brush stroke going this way, but then the light shape, instead of going across like this too, which is easier. That's what I recommend for beginners. But he'll take it and kind of softly pull it here, and the brush stroke will make the transition. But it works because this value, this darker value, slightly darker value, was set up for it. It's not going to work if this is too dark and this is too light. Okay? It'll work if this value right here was set up for it. So if it's light enough here and it's going to work here with this, but he, instead of putting it this way, he pulls it across. I like doing combinations of those strokes. Does that make sense? But if you're a beginner, I just recommend just going with the form, flowing with it. So like it's easier making transition instead of transition and then trying to pull a transition over, because that brush work is too difficult. And you're already struggling with the values and the colors. Does that make sense? That's how I would do it. Oh my gosh. So much. Or is that not what I think that was what you're talking about, right? Hope. Clean this area up some. Notice I haven't, even when I had to change this, I didn't like shapes. Yeah, shapes. I'll show you some. Let's do this. Give me a sec. Actually, I can do it with this. Tagging, what I mean by shapes, simply this. These shapes. It's just the drawing. That's it. This shape. This shape. The shapes are correct, right? So what I'm doing, I'm training my mind to see the shapes, but not just that. I'm trying to understand the form in a three-dimensional aspect. Though I'm not drawing it on this, I'm trying to still translate it into this. I'm trying to feel it when I do this, but it's coming out this way. The shape is the shape. That's all it is. Okay? So when, like at the Florence Academy, for example, you're going back to the impressionistic part. Say this was a painting. And about, if you want to get the light impression of this, you could do solid 3 values, probably. 4th if you want to push the darks, like dark. 5 if you want to push the lights. But for the most part, you have the darks. This is a dark. You have the midtones, which would be kind of around this area right here. This piece right here, whoops, that's too. This piece right here would be kind of like a midtone as well. This would be kind of the darker, on the darker part. But in other words, getting the values correct and just putting them in big basic, like in the correct shape. So like if I'm doing a brush stroke, right, I put it in the right shape here with the brush. So it's just planes. Yes, it's the planes. But sometimes we don't need to be so, like in the basic stage, to get the light impression, you don't need to have all the small planes, but that does not mean that you're not thinking about those planes. You from the very start, even before the models, when the model gets up, stand there when you're there studying, or wherever you are studying, stand there, look at it, and understand the planes from the start. Don't just blindly copy, okay? Yes, it is exactly Quellar, it is, and I'm doing this for him. But this is a good lesson. Tagging is actually also asking very good questions right now. So these are planes, right? These are planes represented by shadow and light, okay? You put the brush stroke down in the correct shape. That's the plane, right? The correct shape representing the shadow and light. Right value, ballpark color. So that when you squint down though, it looks more refined because the brush strokes will blend in because you're squinting. And if it pops the same degree as it pops in life, and if the drawing is correct, the shapes are correct, right? The planes are correct, the shadow shapes are correct, the light shapes are correct, the overall shape is correct. Those are all shapes at the same time. Those are planes and form. If those are correct, even at a basic stage, you have gotten the impression, right? So you don't need to necessarily have it refined. The impression is there if you slightly squint and it works. If a lot of people lose the impression, they lose the light effect, right? But they might go through and refine everything, have everything refined, but the lights might be too dark, the darks might be too light, whatever. It's just there's no light effect with it and you've lost the impression, right? Squinting helps, exactly. We're getting down to like the meat of it, what this is. I struggle with knowing the difference between midtones and shadows all the time. That's why we practice this. So even though like I'm at the very basic level, I'm trying to break down what is midtones, what shadows. How? I'm not drawing it. I'm not drawing the midtones as much. I'm drawing the shadow shapes by squinting. So in that step, I'm differentiating between, yeah, thank you. Because we've been through this, like, this is the stuff I learned tagging. But we're differentiating between shadow shapes and midtones at this stage. I don't need to freaking draw everything and do a checklist saying, oh, I thought about this, so I drew it. You think about this stuff before. Now, somebody could draw like this and not think about any of this stuff, and it could look just as good. In my opinion, that's not right. You're going to push your work further if you start thinking about the form. Like, you got to think like a sculptor at first. This is why life model, I don't care how good you can make. Look, I'm making this stuff look the way that it does because I've done so many freaking real life pieces. I know how real life is. I have so much practice with this, right? And it comes out with this. So you can get away with more, but still, even like, it'd be harder to get this position because it's moving, but you get used to that. But I would understand it better if she was up there, because if she was up there, I'd be going up, looking around, doing all this stuff, thinking about the form, and it would come out in the work. Good. I'm glad it makes sense. There you go. You got it. All right. So that's the stuff. Now, I don't know what they're teaching now, but I used to get grilled on this. Okay? I was always getting my ass handed to me. But here's another thing. I think a lot of it too is if you think about it and you take this to its logical conclusion, that's what it is, right? Like, this painting this type of way is very practical. So you can make it look however you want. The finish, you can make it look pointillism. You can do pointillism. You can do impressionism. You can do, something that's more refined, right? You can do whatever you want, and it can still have the light impression. The technique you put over it is different, and it's a different representation of the planes, but you can still probably successfully represent the planes in the form doing various different styles and techniques, most likely. Some of them, there might be some limitations. Pointillism, I think, would be one of those limitations, but you might be able to get away with it, right? Pointillism, I think, is a joke. Actually, it's kind of cool. Like, some of it's kind of cool. It's not a joke. Maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, like, that's it. Zigzag shadows. See, what's going on up in here? Can y'all tell? Because I have no idea what this is. It looks like somebody photoshopped it. And then this right here, there's a piece here. I don't know if y'all can tell. It's just... For example, I would have shadows on her cheek. For example, I would have saw her shadows on her cheek as dark as well as in her ear. All right, are you talking about this? This piece right here? I hate pointillism. It's kind of pointless painting that way. Did you mean to say that? No pun intended. But they still look dark to me. Oh, wait. I'm squinting. Okay, so here's another way, besides squinting, to get the light and dark. Here's a painting in that area around the eye, nose. Okay, it was pun intended good. No, I like that. That was funny. It's called keying things up, okay? Look at, for example, you have to learn to see, for example, like, compare this to this, to this, to this, to this. Flash your eyes in between and train your mind to see the difference, and you'll get it. That's keying up everything up. It's called keying your values, right? Helps. That's one of the steps in keying your values. It's not just all about squinting. You have to squint. You also have to compare all the values. You have to find, for example, try to find this value. Where else on the face is it? Slightly squint down, open your eyes. Think about how it looks to open your eyes. Squint back down. Use your brain. Practice. That's how you'll get it, Clara. There's higher in value in chroma. I mean, the warm shadows on the ear. It is. It is. And here's another, this is tricky too. There's higher contrast here, so it might be making the illusion that this is actually darker than it is, that's the shadows. So that's tricky. Use your brain, Clara. All right. All right. Having said that, so what we're doing, I'm thinking about the form. I'm not just thinking about the proportions. Everything is a means to an end, right? Why am I doing this? It's a great lesson for everybody, but it's great practice for me. It reminds me of the fundamentals, and fundamentals are key. and it enables me to practice what I'm telling you guys right now about form and all this stuff. Where's this juicy brain? It's the last time, but now I'll use it. Juicy brain activated. Nice. Tegan, these are good questions. This is the stuff that gets me going. It gets me going, man. I love talking about this stuff. I love it. I think we used to talk about this stuff at school, right? I used to teach, and sometimes we'd go over this type of stuff. I enjoy connecting the overall teaching and making it make sense, because the teachings are very difficult, and I've seen both teachers and students piecemeal the teaching because they're hard. It's like they make a blanket statement. Oh, well, they only focus on this at the school. No, you're supposed to be doing all these things. It's just maybe, here's the thing. If you're going to get certain techniques, sometimes, for example, it's hard to keep in mind the form. You should strive to keep the form in mind. But for example, when you're just trying to focus on your technique, sometimes your brain power can only focus on that technique, right? And so until you can get that and do technique without thinking about it as much, you're going to have a harder time doing solid technique and keeping form in mind. So sometimes you have to piecemeal the techniques, but the overall idea behind it is you're trying to learn each thing individually and connect them all together. So you're doing them all at once. That's what you're striving for, right? Does that make sense? That's my stream yesterday, Juicy Brain. You stream yesterday? When are you? What was yesterday? Sunday? What time did you stream, Clara? Okay, let me get this. I've really slowed down on this. Let me get this back. So, yeah, what time did you stream? This is way too big. Put 3 quite this. Son of a bitch. Should be here. Should be here. I see what happened. See, I brought this out and I measured this off this, so this needs to shift too, which is so when we correct, we don't just erase. We need to fix first and then we erase, so we know what we're measuring off of. That should be a little bit better. I think that this, that, and this part kind of does that, and then I'm going to clean it up, and I might have to redraw this once or twice to get this right. I normally have to, it seems. Drawing is key to painting. I'm glad it does, man. Good. The block-ins. Think about form, all these things. Study it. Think about how you're going to paint it. You don't need to draw everything out. Get those center points, but keep them very light so you get the light impression, even at the block-in stage. All right? Try to keep it as simple as you can. Connect everything all at once. Think about the form. Think about the structure. When you're working with a live model, eventually it will be, I'm keeping in mind the position he or she is in. You got to keep that in mind. Keep your Think about what makes it look good. What do you like about it in a certain pose? Maybe it'll sink in this way. Observe that. There's a lot to keep in mind in full figure work. All that stuff is simple block in pencil. And it will translate perfectly to paint. Bread and butter of painting is pencil. Pencil. That's why I do this. This is so important. At least very much. We have to coordinate multiple schedules without making it hard. That's really cool. So this is on Sundays? 3 p.m. Interesting. Okay, cool. This has all been pretty much straight lines, right? Pretty much. Lost the drawing in here, so let's go get it back. So like, getting the light impression, that's form. You get the form, right? You're doing two things at once. Two things at once. It's all related. You just have to be thinking about it, right? Always think about it. Hold on, I do not know what you just said, my friend. So at this point, we're working with both light and shadows, right? Light and shadows, both of them. So I can kind of start hatching out the impression, get the form proper with this. Again, we're studying it, right? Studying the form. Nose, let's work on this nose a little bit. It's there, it's here. This is actually a little bit off. I lost the form and get it back up. So losing the form here, right? This is a great example of contour having form because I rounded everything, right? There's no form in that nose. This is how most people will draw it, right? So I'm going to try to re-simplify it. Try to understand these angles. I'm going to reblock it in and give it solidity, right? Solid straight lines. This is the example of the planes turned to the side. That's the contour. Let me sharpen this because this is like, the nose is very precise and you need that sharp pencil for it. That's why we sharpen it the way we do, like this. Notice the length. Right? we spend time in this stage, and people are thinking, geez, this is going to take forever because you're spending so much time in this stage. Shut up, because if we get this correct, then we can go through and refine it with confidence, right? We can refine it with confidence. And it goes quicker that way. It does, trust me. Carry through. Watch this. This is going to be sweet. I'm going to take this off. I know where that is. Normally I don't erase, but I'm going to in this case here. I'm going to just go very slowly. See, this is very detailed at this point, right here. Through like that. There we go. And if I really am careful, I might be able to get another. I could leave this here. This would work. Let's see how it looks if I just cross through. I don't think that's actually going to look good. I'm just going to leave this for now. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to squint. And when I squint, I see a slight shadow coming this way. Here. And then I see another one coming in here. And then this piece, in fact, if this is here, this drops here. So I lightly put that in. I'm going to fix this. This is how you fix. We fix the subtlety in the nose. Step back. And then from here, grab this piece. Yeah, this is correct. Whoops. That I think is correct, but it's going to be softer. And then this piece actually comes up just a little bit more, and there's a little bit more solidity on the top piece here. So Andrew, if you're watching this on the weekend, this is how I construct the nose, and you just take your time, right? Take your time. We want to get form. Been talking about form. There we go. And notice I'm constantly rehashing and drawing with my eraser. You can do this in brush as well. Step back and see how it looks. All right. What I'm going to do here, that's how I do this. I'm going to squint and, wait, let's do another one. I kind of did it a little bit different. I made it flat point like that, not as so pointy. This gives me a little bit more to work with, and I'm just going to shave off a little bit of this shadow right here to get the impression of the nose popping out just a little bit more than it is. That's how I do that. It's the nose. All right. In this shape, everything is malleable, everything is workable because I've kept it very light. All right. Here, here, here. If things become out of control, go back and reunify everything, okay? Meaning bring the values closer to each other, either lighten everything up or darken, or maybe a combination of both. Why do my hands look like this? What the hell is going on? Look at this. I don't understand. Anyway, that's how we get the nose. All right, so we're going to squint down again. Keeping all these values very light. Everything I've done so far has been with straight lines, right? Forces us to see the freaking angles. That's what we do, all right? We have to see the angles. We have to understand the angles. And force yourself to do them. A straight line does not afford you the ability to do a freaking curve. Right? So you don't want to work that way. This is an important distance. 1, 2. 1, 2. This one. And then this, which this is maybe a little bit too long. This might go up just a hair width. This goes over just a little bit this way. I'm looking at this width. This comes over there here. And this comes up just a slight bit. Actually, this stays here. It's just this bottom part comes up a slight bit. And then this piece comes over a little bit. Like that. Light shape there. And then again, we're shaping with the eraser. And there we go. Flat as such. And then we're going to squint down. This might come up some. And if it needs to go back down, I bring it back down. Only way we're able to work this way is because we've kept it light, right? We've kept it light, pencil light. Don't want to scar the paper. I've gone over that piece several times. I'm trying to look at the light shape as well. That's very important. There we go. All right. Did you know that the barks were meant to be studied with a stump? No, I did not. Really? That is news to me. I have never heard that. Talk to me about that, Taggian. I want to know that. That is fascinating because that's how I learned. I know a lot about the bars, but that I did not know. You think? You're double checking now, aren't you? You might be right. You might be correct. You might be correct. Squint. Right. Step back. Let me see how this looks. Just the overall thing. Sometimes you hone in a little bit too much. I think a little bit needs to be added to the nose right here. So I'm doing this light. Now, there's going to be the temptation when you're going back over something like this to make it darker so that you can actually see it. But if you do that, you run the risk of scarring the paper, so don't. Just put it very lightly over and just be subtle about it. If this needs to go back in, it goes back in. This type of work, this method of working seems like very picky. That's good. This is training your eye to see these shapes. Right? This is why there are artists who can see like distances, a great distance, right? They can see if it's that far off or not. This is what trains your mind to see this. And then what happens is there's a little piece. There's an angle here. There's an angle. It kind of comes like that and then like that. I might have messed it up. I'll know in a little bit once my eye catches up to things. Let's work on the mouth. All right. All angles, right? All angles. We cross through all these angles right here. You're looking it up, aren't you? See, I learned more on these streams than I thought I would, to be honest with you. There's people here who are know how to find what they need to find. It's studying online and such, and it's a different form in which I learned. So there's a lot of information out there, and I feel like I get spoon-fed it every time I stream, which is good. Angles. I'm thinking angles here. I'm not thinking, oh, it needs to curve, or what I'm actually thinking. If I had a straight line and I pressed it up to that chin, what would it do? Huh? What would it do? That's how we think about this. Cross through. Constantly doing this will improve you at this technique, right? Doing these straight lines is going to give you the form you need. Right? You need to have solidity in your work. You don't want it just fuzzed on there, right? This drops just a little bit. So I shadowed a little bit early, not really early, but I shadowed in earlier, and I'm able at this point. You know what I should have done? I did everything correct as far as the development for the most part, except the ear. I did not shadow that in. And so let's catch that up some. Let's catch this up just a little bit. All right. Work through it. Get those shadow shapes. Wish that actually needs to come out more. Okay, let's work with this a little bit. One. This is roughly close. This was curving here more than I had it. Makes sense because the academic nude drawings are made with charcoal and Conte, and the modeling was done with a stump. The bars were done to prepare the student or to give them an idea of the drawing process. But bars were not used in the official academia, but in provincial art schools. It makes no sense back then to model the bars in sharp charcoal because sharp charcoal pencils were used mainly in construction drawing. This is just my opinion. But it was a process of study, right? So wouldn't it also make sense to learn the process that it could be applied to anything that they would do it in different mediums? I don't know. You raise an interesting point. Fascinating. I don't know. Now I need to look into that, which is good. Son of a bitch. This goes up. That's there. This is actually not that far off. That's there. This part. There we go. I miss being able to watch you on my TV. My little phone screen doesn't do your work justice. I can see the shapes much better now. Oh, good. The TV. Awesome. I am on TV. That is fun. So again, I shadowed here, and the temptation is to make this dark to compensate for this area here, but you have to fight that and continue doing light lines in, and then I'll just carve them out once I get this. So it's worth it at this point to take your time. Shit. I think that's it right there, and then this part. I have a sight-size video coming out. I have, I'm going to do, it's not filmed yet. I have some stunts into it, but sight-size, I'm going to be talking about relating form into things, like, form into sight-size, form into comparative measurements, using comparative measurements within sight-size. And then I'm also going to have one that's a little bit more basic, how to use basics of using your easel, like placing it back. Some people tilt it back, and I'm going to explain why only morons do that. Which is not true. Okay. It makes sense because the barbs have no form, just clear shadows and light and some midtones, so they were done fast and plenty. They did not fill every hole on the paper. That is incorrect, except in the earlier stages. The early barbs, yes. Later on, there was some solid form to them. You can tell. And they progressively build up. And this is what I'm talking about, is the progression of learning, right? You start with the very basics and then you go from there. Taking look at the some of the faces, especially the man with I forget the names of these people. Even the women, there's form, they actually have it modeled at some points. And there is a sense of light. It might not be aesthetically a sense of light we would set up, but they have a sense of light on them. Okay? Okay? But they still have form. They still have form. These were meant because they're meant, like, primarily they're meant to build up to get you familiar with the process, but they still had form. It might be more simple, but they still had, they still went through with the form, right? The simple ones. You are correct about the simple ones. That is true. You are correct there. You are most accurate. I really hope this is in the right place. I mean, the cool thing is once you go through and get the study, and if you need to shift it, you can shift it. You still have the information. You just shift it over a little bit, which you do, but it's always best if it's already. I hate moving stuff after I've worked it up. That point's wrong. How far is the beach from you? Asking Quildar that. Okay. Why did that come up? Give me a sec. Down. Stupid thing. Stop. Out. There we go. Wait a second. I moved some of this stuff over. Give me a sec. Oh no. This is too wide. This comes in. Comes in some. This is here. Okay. It's fine. There. It seems so exaggerated working on a barg for months. They were not meant to be drawn like that. Wait 1 second. I wish for... Wait, it seems so exaggerated working on a barg for months. They were not meant to be drawn like that. How were they meant to be drawn, Tagian? You tell me. You tell me, man. How are they meant to be drawn? This ear over like 5 times, but this is the last time I'm doing it. To judge an ear's outline with a drawing, without drawing its contents. Yeah, that takes not months, I can tell you that. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. But, you know, here's how you need to think of this stuff, man. Seriously, there's value in the old masters, okay? There's value in the old masters and how they went about this type of work. But at the same time, each of these like bar drawings have lessons in them, okay? They have valuable lessons in them. And it's worth taking as much time as you need to absorb the lesson, whether it's a couple weeks or a month. All right, so try not to get hung up on that. One of the values in working off something that does not move is that there is no debate about the distance that you are trying to measure off of. The more you practice, the better you're going to be with it. So taking your time is key. They are valuable though, but not spend whole trimesters on them. Like on just one, I agree with that. I think I can see a month on something very complex. You're going to talk, like, we're talking about, for example, one with the hair and all that stuff is very complex features. Sometimes those take a month to 6 weeks to do. Sometimes that's just how it is. They take that long to get that out. And you can do it quicker too, right? But it depends on the person. Some students don't work as fast as others. Okay? So that's how you have to look at it. Like people are going to work at different paces. But it's not enough to go through and just say, oh, well, it's been a month, go on to the next thing. If the student is struggling with the concept, right, that they could very easily learn with Bargs, right? So, they're a pain in the ass. They are. It's It's 10 years minimum to work on a bar, otherwise you aren't practicing. You hear that, Jay? Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. Every once in a while, like I get to this point right now where my mind gets tired, and then I just start inching things over, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Keep it about right there, though. It seems about right. And then this kind of comes down like that. It's a little bit better. Okay. This is where it's going to be, and then we're just going to... It's worth taking the time to do this. I know it's like kind of a pain, but this is how we get better. It's just how it is. There's that. Start hatching this out. Don't get me wrong, my whole work method relies on the Barg ideology. No, dude, you have some good points. You have good points. Very good points. But my point is, some of these Bargs are very complex, especially for a student, and there's like a lot to learn. So you're doing them on a larger scale. It's different. It's just different. It's not. There's still a lot of value in them. Here's another thing. You have to understand that times change, and sometimes the change isn't always that bad. Sometimes like you can expand on lessons that were used in the past. Sometimes like, in the past they might not have worked on something as long, but maybe they should have in certain situations, not all, right? You can expand on things. The way that I judge doesn't make sense. Is it practical? If it's not, then you have a point, right? Any comments on my above upside down question? Oh, did I miss it? So what are your thoughts on art teachers that insist you need to draw from your reference upside down? I think that's a good technique to do. I mean, it's good to have done that a couple times because it teaches you, like, I did that when I was in school, and it taught me how much, like, I draw what I think I'm drawing, like what I think I'm looking at, and it's wrong. And so you have to look at it more objectively. I think objectively is the right way, right? So yeah, I think that's a good technique to use. Yeah, it's nice. Oh yeah, tell me why we don't have painters like Bouguereau now. I love how fired up you are with this. It hasn't been that long since this stuff has kind of resurfaced. You have to give it a little bit of time. You really do. But, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. But still, tagging, that does not mean that you can't I'm not saying lazily improve upon technique. Like, it's common sense, man. If you need to work on something, work on it. Like, get the lesson across. Take your time with it. You have the time, work on it. That's my point. Now, if it's something that's going to hold you back, don't do it. Right? Don't do it. But there are some really damn good painters out there. Really good. They're different painters. I think there's more people on Earth today than there ever have been. The good thing about the Florence Academy is they are constantly improving their program as well as other places. Exactly. Like, it's not just our job. Look, so far what's been is trying to get back what we've lost. But it's going to come a time, probably within our lifetimes, that we're actually adding to it. All right, that's my point. You have to think outside of what we've lost. But I'm in agreement with you. I think we should adhere to the old teachings, and we should really like follow them to a T and understand them properly. But if we can, try to improve upon them, but not try to make it quicker or simpler to do. You don't want to make you don't want to compromise. I'm not talking about the absolute level of painting, because we've lost the demand for the style of art, and with lack of an audience, there are less people inclined to study it. But there is incredible art in other mediums and styles for sure. They're not talking about the absolute level of painting, because we've lost the demand for them. So Bouguereau, like, he did a lot of work for churches and such, and that genre, it spoke of the time, and like Claire said, the demand. But the technical aspect of it, there are people who I think are coming close, but it hasn't been long enough since the style has returned. Bouguereau did not, like, it wasn't until a little bit later in life that he started really hammering things out. And a lot of that had to do with the motivation of the pains that he went through in losing a lot of his family, including his wife and children. He had a very difficult life. It's very fascinating. But he translated that pain into painting and turned that pain into passion. It was his escape. It was his love, right? He was so awesome. So damn good. Yeah, there's just such good art out there. There really is, if you look. Especially in the last, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 years, there's just been an explosion of just amazing stuff. In my opinion, I could be wrong. Like, it might have been before, might be, I don't know. But there's a lot of good stuff going on right now. I love how fired up you get, man. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Well, you tell me why nobody's painting like Bouguereau, huh? Yeah, that's right. I think you have a point. Love it. It's really awesome. It's awesome. I think. Maybe. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. We're waiting on you, Tag In. You're the one. Yet, honestly, I really do believe that one of the keys to being a great painter is to get pissed off. Like, angry. It really is. You need to have that, man. You need to have it. So the stuff I'm doing in the ear, I should have done when I was like earlier. And now we fill these shadow shapes in, and I'll start hatching out the basics with them. The shadow shapes are freaking off, but that's okay. I just finished this fashion movie. Oh yeah, I think one of the keys to being great is getting angry. There's a lot of anger in this stream amidst, like, within everybody, which is good. You can't just be, I want to do it just to make a statement, but you gotta love what you do and get angry with it. How can we paint like the masters while the whole world tries to take us apart from our work and study? Tagian? That's why I'm saying you have to get pissed off, man. You can't let that stuff stop you. You gotta get pissed off. I am dead serious. I joke around. I'm a funny guy. And so sometimes when I say something, it's taken as a joke, and that's good. I like that too. But you gotta get pissed. You have to get angry with that stuff. Fuck them if they want to take you away. That's how you, and then they say don't do it, then you figure out a way to do it. Throw it back in their face. That's what you do. If you're meant to do it, you're going to do it. Right? That's how it goes, man. That's how you have to look at it. You have to get angry with this stuff. Say, you know what you do? You look for, I'm dead serious. You look for the people who say you can't do it, and then you let that feed you. Seriously, that's a strategy. All the people who tell you you suck or this or that or you can't do it, you'll never be able to do it. Say, all right, and don't try to fight back. Don't get angry, or get angry, but don't let it paralyze you. Use that as fuel and turn it against them. That's what you do. I am dead serious. All right? That's how you do it. That's how you do it. The world tries to turn us. Now there might be setbacks, right? That's different. Fine. There's setbacks to everything. Right? There's going to be setbacks. But you're going to have to figure out how to get past that. You know. Sorry, that's my phone. 5 o'clock, damn. So what I would say, I don't think you can draw an anime character there, prove me wrong. I don't care. Can probably draw anime tits. You want to see that? Hey, you got thrown off Twitch. What do you do? You drew tits. Dude, you have to get angry with this stuff. Let's get some music. Let's get some musica. See. What do we got? You gotta get mean! Dodgeball. You know what Michael Jordan would do? You know, to keep that to keep that fire going, because he was, the greatest basketball player ever. I sometimes, if I need to be motivated, I watch videos on him. Actually, I'm going through this kick right now. I've always loved basketball. But he used to make up stories that this person said this about him, and it would be something negative, and he'd just get so pissed off, and he would make that a reality for himself, and then go out and just dominate that player on the court. It could be something the coach said. The coach did this to him on the other team, right? Like, he would come up with these stories, allegedly come up with these stories to motivate himself. This person said this about you, this person did that. If you have real life things, so tagging, the problem is you are in a country that it's very difficult because it doesn't seem like there's that much upward mobility, right? Now, I've never been to Kosovo before, but I don't think it's definitely not the opportunity America has. So you have some challenges to overcome, but dude, you're smart, you have a brain, and there's a way to do it. And so don't ever let anybody stop you with that, and never become a victim with this. The second you start letting yourself be a victim, you've given up, and that's it. That's the best advice that I can give you. The whole world's doing this. Stop pointing fingers at the world. Fuck that. I'm dead serious. I never lose at Overwatch. Shut up. Losing at Overwatch. I've been very honest about this. I am not a good player, but I have heart. Shit. I'm dead serious, tagging. Like, these are hardships, and you're going to have to figure them out. There's a way around it. You have help. There are resources. But never put yourself under somebody that you're a victim, ever. I played yesterday with the guys. We did okay. I like one better. One was fun. I just get so angry with Blizzard with some of their game design. It just baffles me, some of the bullshit that they've done. Right? It really does. It just... As the Treasury is still playing support them. Yeah, that's a good point. I do still play and support them. You're right, I do. It's a very good point. But I don't play as much as I did. I really don't play as much as I used to with that. But back to something. I hope they do succeed with Diablo 4. You quit on Blizz? Why did you quit on Blizz? It's too close. Needs to be higher. Hairline above this right here. Like, this is the eyebrow, right? Let's make sure this is correct first. This is here. This is here. This is here. This should be there. 1, 2. Well, that's where it should be, right here. This part right here, I mean, it could be, there's kind of drops there some. This is correct. Your hairline above, you're talking about this right here? Yeah, I haven't really spent much time on it. I can go through this. Give me a sec. Yeah, this is dropping down too much. I've lost the shapes here, the form. It kind of comes out like here. Down, down. Bring this over somewhere around there. It's really just lighter. Is that better, Tagian? Does that look better, buddy? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Oh. You know, it's one of those things where it's like last week I said, you know what? I don't need sleep because I'm an idiot. And then this week, my body's like, you idiot. We're making you sleep. Sideburns. This? Yeah, okay, well, oh, yeah. I see that. Wait, I have it coming down here. This is the eyebrow to here. And then this is probably too far apart, which this is probably too far apart, I'm guessing. Wait a second. Let me see what you said again. Your hairline above the eyebrow is too close. It needs to be higher. Yeah, I made that like that, right? Here. He's right. Shades of maybe just a little bit there, something like that. Is that better? How's that look? The sideburns. These are the sideburns. That's the sideburn, right? This part right here is not so much. Oh, son of a bitch. Sorry. Got it. Too much partying? Wouldn't call it partying. This doesn't make sense up here. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I might just make some of that up based off what I think it actually should be. What was the woman's story? This one? I don't know. This one? I mean, it's a random picture. That Andrew had. What's her history? Does she have a job? What are her dreams? What is she thinking in this photo? I don't care. I'm a man. I don't know. Real men don't care about anything. I care. I must know. Clara. He left the camera, I think. Oh no, the camera froze. Shit. Give me a second. Let me see if I can restart this. Got them. This might freeze again. I don't know why it's doing that, guys. I don't know why it's doing that. It makes me nervous. This is what it did last time. Thanks for telling me. This is what happened last time. It might freeze again. We don't know. We don't know. I'm so paranoid with... Wait, this is blocking ever since that thing almost fell. Here we go. That's better, right? There we go. That must be better. Son of a bitch. Then why aren't there any... Why is nobody as good as Boogaroo? Dagging, you are awesome, man. Fire me up. That's good. Very logical question as well. Still working good. Just had to reset it. At least I know a solution for that camera, right? If it cuts off, then I can just reinstall it. Obviously can't do that during a stream, but shit. So even at this stage, right, in the beginning stage, we're thinking about form, we're conveying form through the shadow shapes, big basic shapes, and from here we're breaking it down, thinking about the smaller form, the individual planes, how it pertains to the intersection of everything, right, like this area, the light shapes. So going through and just getting what most people call the detail, this is also the more precise form. To get this, you have to spend time in the basic blocking stage to make sure everything is accurate, right? That's kind of the idea behind it. That didn't work. This is gonna be soft. Guys, I have to get somewhere. Very soon. So maybe I do another stream on this. I'm not quite sure. I just want to do a quick sketch. Maybe I pick this up and refine it a little bit more. But essentially, this is how I go about this type of angle of the face. The drawing could definitely be better, as in most of the stuff that I do. But even at this stage, everything can be corrected, because even though like certain areas are a little bit darker, they're still 100% correctable. This is a B pencil. I'm working with Bristol paper, smooth, and B works quite nicely on this paper. Very smooth, nice. This pencil is the Faber-Castell. A very good pencil. I normally work with Staedtler. These are great pencils, right? I was an idiot, bought HB pencils at one point on Amazon, cheap. Got a pack of like 15, 20, 25. Absolutely horrible, but you can still work with them. But these are very smooth, so I really like how it comes out. But I will be streaming this week, be working on this stuff, be working on the YouTube videos, all that stuff. So anyway, guys, I'm sorry I have to run. I have to get somewhere. But if you're new here, Discord, keep up with the streams and everything. We have the Discord below. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Claire Queldar, tag in. Ilokima. Thanks. Guys, y'all take care. I'll see you. I'll be streaming this week. Yeah, thank you, Clara. It's fun having you here. Bye, Hammy.